E aí, Numus, tudo bem? Before we get into today's episode, first of all, I hope everybody in the U.S. that got to spend time with their families during the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday, I hope that you enjoyed yourself, that you didn't stress out, your anxiety levels didn't spike, and that you remembered the life that it is that you want to manifest and how important it is to protect your peace. And with that being said, me and Mercury have beef now, okay? So the planet of Mercury will not be back on this show because Mercury tried it again. So I want you to understand something. My team and I both listen back to every single episode before it gets published. And oftentimes, if something happens in the publishing part of it, we won't know about it until it's already published. Okay. Or until there's nothing we can do about it. For instance, like the episode that had the static, there was nothing we could do. My team said, do you want to re-record it? I said, absolutely not. I'm going to leave it as is. The people who want to continue to listen to that episode will, and they can skip over the parts with the static if they want to. I will understand that, but I did not want to lose the message, even though the static definitely tried. And so with the episode that you heard last week, the Quiet Reset episode, there was a part where you always will hear the opening to the Luanova codes segment. And you will hear me then say what the Luanova code is for that week. Okay. For whatever reason, I listened to this. My entire team listened to this. We heard the code. It is actually still on my phone because that one in particular was recorded from my phone. This is being recorded from my phone. So I now am going to make sure, because I'm going to combine these two audios to make sure that you get the code that you were supposed to hear last week. Okay. Sometimes I will randomly think of whatever the Luanova code is and I will immediately record it from my phone and not from my podcast setup. So I knew for a fact that it had already been done. It even is labeled differently than the entire rest of the episode so that I know where it's supposed to go. My team knows where it's supposed to go. So when the audio is completely combined, right there, it will say code, whatever the number is. For instance, this one is code 525. You're going to hear this right after this recording, and then the show will begin. Okay. So I want to apologize for that. I also want to say when I recorded the episode that you're about to hear, I was all over the place because I'm beginning the pre-recorded episodes for December. All of the episodes for November were not pre-recorded. The episodes for December will be. And I have not forgotten about the guided meditation that I promised you. I just honestly don't know where to fit it in because a guided meditation episode cannot have the tarot reading, etc. in it. It needs to be just one meditation all by itself. So I'm trying to decide where to put it. If it's just going to be, I think it's going to be just an episode by itself. Okay. So I'm just giving you a heads up now and letting you know that I did misspeak in this episode and say that these episodes are pre-recorded. No, the episodes for November were not. The episodes for December, as far as I know, the majority of them will be. Okay. So I'm frustrated because I'm tired of my audios getting messed up and this is not the fault of the team. And I'm also not going to take blame here because I know for a fact that when that audio was completed, that segment was in there. So my apologies. Here is the code you were supposed to hear last week. And I do have something coming up for you, at the end of the season. So starting this month, regarding the Luanova codes. So, and Patreon members, especially for you, you're going to get to hear something that the rest of the listeners will not. Okay. But here is the code and then the show will start. Thank you for hanging in there with me this season. I cannot wait for this retrograde to be over. It has been, we'll talk about it later. We'll talk Patreon. You and I need to talk. We need to talk. There's some things I want to get into that I can only say on Patreon. All right. Code 525. Step into your divine feminine energy and receive the help that the universe is handing you. Bonjour, new moons. I am Josie the Mustang, the Afro-Latina, Regina George of Witches, and you're aligned with the frequency of the luanovapodcast. And in today's episode, like I told you before, I am bringing the fun back into manifestation. Oftentimes we're talking about the laws of attraction, all of the universal laws really, and it can get serious and sometimes the discussions get deep, but I just want to have some fun. I taught you some fun methods recently, and we're going to keep that tradition going here at the end of season 3. As I gear up for season 4 and I have a lot on my plate, just know that the episodes that are coming up, they were already thought out, not pre-recorded, but thought out, and some were even inspired by some of your messages. Okay, so I want you to think about something as we jump into today's topic. When you were a child, and this is for those of us who likely grew up with a traditional Christmas. Did you ever have to make a list to Santa Claus? Or did you ever make a list to Santa Claus? Now, you might not remember actually believing in Santa Claus. I don't remember ever believing in Santa Claus. Maybe I did at some point. But maybe you never did. But maybe you do remember making that list. Maybe you even sent it off. Maybe you went to go see Santa Claus in the mall. That's a thing here in the U.S. I can't speak for other countries since I was raised in the U.S., unfortunately. So that was my experience. And you might be wondering why a witch is teaching you this. Because Santa has nothing to do with Christianity. In fact, Christmas itself has strong pagan roots. This is something I discuss every single season because I know that I am always teaching new people. There's always new listeners. And thank you, by the way, to all of my listeners for hanging in there with me during the episode that had static in it and I couldn't fix the static. I am still very annoyed by that. And there was nothing my team could do. There was nothing I could do other than to scrap the whole recording. And I wasn't going to do that. There was too much information in it. But today, if that happens again, my apologies. As at the time of this recording, we are still in the middle of Mercury retrograde, and it never fails that Mercury wants to mess with my recording. And I know I had Mercury as a guest, but it always messes with my recordings during its retrograde, and it annoys my soul. But I want you to think about that. Think about also how we saw Christmas as kids versus now. Now, I'm a practicing witch, so how I see Christmas is, honestly, you want me to be really blunt with you? I feel kind of sad for the people who don't actually know the origin, but tend to be very critical of people like myself. So you put up a Christmas tree, which is very pagan. You put a wreath on your door, pagan. You light candles, pagan. You leave out offerings, very much so rooted in witchcraft. Very much so something that my ancestors did long before Christianity existed. And even the symbolism of when allegedly Jesus was born, all of that actually traces back to spirituality that predates Christianity. Okay? But the reason I am mentioning all of that is that there are people with different beliefs who listen to my show all of the time. There are Christians that listen to my show, and they're the ones that actually know this stuff. And there are people, and before anybody says this stuff, do not start with the Devil Wears Prada monologue. I know it front and back. Don't do it, because I'm a lot more Miranda Priestley than one would think. But I wanted to mention the roots of Santa and Christmas because I don't want people to feel like they are going to be left out. Because there are new people to my show. Please keep in mind that not only am I a practicing witch, but the whole reason that Lua Nova exists is based on my great-grandmother, who by today's definition would also be considered a witch. She was a healer. She did many different types of practices, including reading tea leaves, and she was a Mexican indigenous woman. On the other side of my family, there were also practitioners. Now, the other side of my family did not raise me. That is the Afro-Brazilian side. But based on what I have learned about them, yes, there were practitioners in my family, some of which were the children of Oshun, and I understand that witchcraft and what I do is different than the actual religion, the actual Yoruba religion. So please don't try to correct me about something that is in my literal family bloodline. But as far as Mexican traditions, it's the same thing. There's a lot that is rooted in my own culture, which is why you don't hear me actually teaching things that are rooted in my culture. A lot of these practices are closed. There are also practices that I heavily gatekeep because there's a lot of colonization that has already happened. There's also a lot of colonization that takes place in the manifestation community, which is why when you look up podcasts like mine, they are always suggesting podcasts hosted by white people instead of podcasts hosted by people who look like me. So I make it a point to teach you the true origin briefly, because I want you to do the rest on your own, and to point out the actual origins of things so that you don't feel like you can't participate. You can. You can put up a tree. A Christmas tree has zero to do with Christianity. And so Santa Claus has zero to do with Christianity. Living out cookies for Santa is not Christian. A lot of these things are things that witches like myself do year round. We celebrate the seasons. We celebrate nature because that connects us with the divine, who is what many of you refer to as God, okay? Or source. That's also how I refer to God. Source is literally what it sounds like, the source of all things. And so that is the technical boring part of today's episode. That way you'll know, and that way you feel like you can participate. So if you want to get a pen and paper, you can do so right now. If you want to write in red and green, you can do that too. But one moment, new moons.
Lua Nova Codes of Manifestation. Códigos de manifestação Lua Nova.
Code 1111. Manifest in silence, then arrive loudly. So my apologies. Just like I said, every single time I'm about to record, something decides to be loud, whether it be somebody is loudly at the door, or the air conditioner decides that it wants to come on even though it hasn't been on this entire time, or somebody decides that they want to walk by and talk very loudly. You know, it never, because I do record near a window, so that's what I mean. But it never fails. Ever, ever, ever. So thank you for bearing with me. Do you have your paper? Now, this is not like when we're doing a spell. It is a spell. And I want you to keep something in mind for those of you who ask why I don't tell you that you have to have petition paper. The reason why I don't is that as a practitioner that's been doing this for a long time, one thing that I've learned from my own ancestors is that they used whatever they had available. So if my ancestors had notebook paper available, do you think they wouldn't have used it? Yeah, because it still comes from a tree. So why wouldn't they have used it? Now, did they use petition paper? Well, one did, yes. But I understand that they understand that in modern day, I do have more options than they did. They didn't necessarily have the options of different color ink, etc. They used whatever they had. And so because I do, I recommend to you to use what you have available. If all you have is a receipt, and it's blank on the back, and you have a pen that you stole from the dentist, that's fine. Use it, because it is about your intention. Put all of your intention and energy, because energy is what you're actually working with. Remember, everything has energy and everything has a frequency. And so because of that, that is what we are going to be tapping into. When you were a kid, you likely, those who grew up like I did, you were excited to make this list. And for those of you who didn't get to do this, I hope that you actually take this practice as something that is healing your inner child. Because I remember growing up with a friend who had a different religion, and he would get made fun of a lot. I believe he was Jewish. I genuinely don't remember because of how long ago this was. And I used to sit with him. I'm not like giving myself big props or anything, but I used to sit with him because he couldn't participate in any of the holiday events. Keep in mind that at this time, my mother did not tell me about the practices in my family yet, but I knew I was different. It was obvious, but I would sit with him because he didn't get to participate in a lot of things. And when I created this episode, I kept those children in mind. What that must feel like to be excluded. And I remember when I used to sell cars, I worked with this woman who was Muslim. And at the time I was still Christian, but she didn't know that I was beginning to move away from Christianity. I was keeping all of that to myself
more on that another day. But she asked me if she could put up a tree. And I said yes. And she was like, but it's going to upset my husband. I said, I can't, I can't tell you what to do in your marriage, but I can tell you that a Christmas tree has nothing to do with Christianity. And I didn't go further into it because I think that I had to get back to work or something. So I never got to explain to her the paganism that has to do with trees or anything like that. And now that I understand, I celebrate the seasons, and although winter is a difficult season for me because I associate it with a lot of trauma, physical trauma for me, and the trauma of losing my furry best friend, I still celebrate winter because of its origin and what it actually means. And so I encourage those of you who didn't get to celebrate these things as a kid or based on religious trauma, etc., I encourage you to do this practice. Okay? And so if you grew up writing to Santa, or even just to your parents, what it is that you wanted, then there was an excitement about it. There wasn't a worry of, what if I don't get everything that's on this list? And being the true Virgo that I am, I used to not only write a list, I used to have a rough draft, and then I would go over it again, then I would make sure it was perfect, and then I would finally give it to Santa. But why am I this way? But I remember that I never worried that I wouldn't get everything on the list. I was accepting of that. And it's interesting that as children, we understand manifestation in a way that as adults, we have to reteach. And I think that tapping into that is going to be something that will bring in more of what it is that we're trying to conjure, I guess. I think so. So what I want you to do, if you have your piece of paper, and this is something I do recommend putting on paper, not in your phone, and you can do it online, and I'll tell you how to do that, but I think that the best way to go about this is to actually write it out. Now, as a kid, you would write, Dear Santa. Remember, Santa is not a religious symbol. Saint Nick is, but Saint Nick has now merged with Santa Claus, etc. We're not going to go down all of those roads. If it makes you feel better, if you need more encouragement here, Santa's roots would be more Norse pagan than anything. So look more into that. Ask people who are pagan to explain it better than I have here. But there you go. That makes you feel more comfortable. When you're writing a letter to Santa, how would you write a letter to Santa? Would you just immediately jump into what it is that you want? I don't think you would. I think that you likely would be like, how are you? What's the North Pole like? How is Rudolph? How is Blitzen? You know what I mean? So start it off the same way that you would as a kid, or just how you would write a letter to anybody else. And of course, before you jump into the actual wish list part of this, thank Santa the same way that we would thank who? Source. Now, Source is not Santa Claus. Your spirit guides are not Santa Claus. This is strictly to teach your mind how to see the fun in manifestation, because that's what it's supposed to be. And that's something that your inner child always knew. And so as you write out this wish list, I'm going to give you some examples of how to go about this. The first part can be what it is that you want to receive. For instance, just using myself as an example, I receive the resources and stability that carry me through 2026 and beyond. Okay. Now that can be a lot of things, right? But I wanted to give you an actual example, and it doesn't have to be that formal. It could be, I receive a brand new car. You don't even have to do that. When you were a kid, you didn't do that. You would just write, I want the following. List it out. I remember I wanted a Barbie dream house. I got that Barbie dream house, by the way. Barbie Jeep. What is it that you want? Now you might want the adult version of the Barbie Jeep, the adult version of the Barbie dream house. You know what I mean? So, write it out. Boys, you can do this too. There actually are quite a few men who listen to my show, so girls, gays, and theys, we do have to let them participate in this. So, what else is it that you want? Now, if you want to be formal the way I just was, you can. I received the upgrades that strengthened my life. I receive the blessings, opportunities, and support that align with my highest self. You can be that formal about how you write this. Santa won't mind. And what is it that you want to experience? Now, this is, of course, thinking about 2026, but this could be just in general. So thinking about just 2026, it could be something along the lines of, in 2026, I experience growth that feels right for me. In 2026, I'm going to go to this concert. Insert your favorite artist here. In 2026, I'm going to travel here. In 2026, I'm going to try this restaurant I've always wanted to go to. You know what I mean? So those are the experiences that you're wanting. Okay, that counts too. Now let's move on to the next part of the list. Who, and this is based on who it is that you want to become. Because yes, you can ask Santa for a little push. You know, I am becoming the person who receives without hesitation. Santa, help me with that. How do I become the person who receives without hesitation? And the reason why we're writing to Santa and not just the universe is that this is supposed to be a winter activity, guys. This is supposed to be fun. And if you are in a part of the world where it is not your winter and it is actually your summer, since I have quite a few listeners from all over the world, then if you want to save this practice and do it later, you can. If you don't celebrate Christmas, neither do I. I celebrate winter. So this is not something, again, that you have to feel excluded from. You don't even have to use the word Christmas. I typically say happy holidays, happy winter. So keep that in mind. You can even say happy Yule for those of you who celebrate Yule. And what else is it that you're wanting to become? What else do you want to ask Santa for a little push with? I'm becoming the person who always welcomes miracles into my daily life. I'm becoming the kind of person who speaks up for myself. Now, are you worried that none of this will happen? If your answer is yes, then honestly, what I would advise you to do is maybe not do this. Because this is supposed to be the fun of manifestation. And so, if you feel as though, well, what if this list doesn't come true? Then what I'm going to ask you to do is do a little more of your shadow work. Let's work on the healing side for you. Because that tells me that if doing something that's supposed to be fun actually brings up feelings of anxiety or worry or concern for you, then we got to backtrack a little bit for you, you know, and that's okay. If you're feeling like, I don't know if I'm ready to do something like this, I know this is supposed to be fun, but it makes me just feel anxious, then that's okay to not do it. That's okay. Because what I want you to do instead is I still want you to write out that wish list, but now you're going to write it to yourself. Dear highest self, this is what I want for myself. This is the kind of person I want to become. This is what I want to experience. This is what I want to receive in the material side of things. And just make it out to yourself only, because I still want you to be able to participate. But for those of you who have decided to write this beautiful letter out to Santa Claus, and maybe you wrote it in red and green, maybe you wrote it in silver ink, gold ink, maybe you got real fancy with it. I hope so. Those of you who know how to draw, maybe you made your letter extra beautiful. Shout out to you. I wish I knew how to do stuff like that. I, at the end, want you to, of course, to thank Santa Claus for carrying out these wishes for you and to help you reach these goals, etc. And then end it like you always would. And you know, if you want to be witchy and put in, so it is, I say, you can. Or you could just put, with love, your name, new moon. Okay. And from there, what happens? What do I do with this letter now? Well, you have a few options. One, you can fold it towards yourself. You know how to do this, just like you would a petition. And if you have an altar, put it on your altar. Come back to it by next Christmas or next winter. Winter is December the 21st. Of course, Christmas is December 25th. That's allegedly when Santa's out and about. This is why I said December 25th, by the way. It has nothing to do, one more time, with Christianity. Okay, so I want you to know the following. Let's say that you want to actually mail out this letter. You can, by sending it to the following. And yes, this is an actual address. I looked this up for you. The first address is, of course, addressed to Santa Claus, 123 Elf Road, North Pole, and the zip code is 88888, okay? Or Santa Claus, P.O. Box 1, Santa Claus, Indiana, 47579. And yes, I will make sure that those two addresses are in the show notes. Digitally, for those of you who decided that, you know what, I just had to do this the digital way. Let me find the website for you. Hold on just a second, because I had it on here. 1 second. One moment, new moons. Let me look this up for you. So if you have decided that you don't want to physically write out a letter, but you want to send out your letter to Santa online, you can do so at lettersanta.com, northpole.com, or santaclausvillage.info. Okay. And I will remember also to put these links in the show notes for you. Again, my team is off for the rest of the year. They of course have offered to help, but I don't want them to have to, because as Lua Nova grows, likely we will not be able to take whole months off anymore. But for the time being, I'm letting them do that, especially because they do work on other podcasts. So I know they have a lot going on to begin with. But if I forget to put this in the show notes, I'm sorry. I'm going to try my hardest to remember, but if you have ever recorded a show, you know, there's so much that goes into it that for whatever reason, the show notes always get lost in the shuffle. But there are 3 websites and of course 2 mailing addresses. But let's say that you want to keep it. I did go over, of course, if you have an altar, you can leave it on your altar, but I'm going to give you some more options that I typed out, but I didn't write down here. You can also, let's see. Hold on. I'm trying to find my notes. Look up when is the next new moon in December. You can leave it out then, because the new moon is the perfect time to manifest. You can also use the full moon. I'm never against that. You can, of course, burn it in a safe space. For instance, if you have a cauldron of any sort or something that is fire safe to burn it in, you can do that. And that would be considered like an offering. Okay. Burn it in a fire safe bowl. And as it burns, you can even say, you know, for instance, my wishes rise and take form, I say, you know what I mean? But other things you can do is if you have a manifestation journal, which I'm sure the majority of you do, you can put it in there so that you never have to send it at all. You can seal it in an envelope and never actually send it. But, you know, again, maybe keep it on your altar in your manifestation journal. And another thing you can do is carry it around with you and start all over again next winter, you know, or next December, depending on when you want to start this ritual. I recommend at the beginning of December. That's why this episode is airing on the day that it's airing, but it's up to you. You know, it's up to you to decide how you want to keep this, how you want to dispose of it. Now, disposing of it, oftentimes I get asked, well, how do you dispose, for instance, of petition paper? It's going to be the same thing. You can burn and release. You can throw it away intentionally. Never throw something away without the intention of like speaking out what it is that you are throwing away. Don't just throw it in the garbage and forget about it. You know what I mean? But sometimes you have to dispose of things. You know, you have to get rid of a spell. You got to put it in the garbage at some point. There are certain things that you should not just be leaving out into nature. So that's littering. So I understand the need to throw it away, but do so with intention. Okay. And just keep that in mind. I don't recommend burying it. I don't recommend, again, leaving it in the earth whatsoever. If you have a shredder, you can shred it. And now you have confetti. There you go. But things like freezing it kind of go more into the spell side of things, so I won't get too into it, but I will say that there is the option of freezing it and sealing it that way. Keep in mind, this is not a freezer spell. We are sealing the spell, but I'm not going to get into that. All right. And the reason I'm not going to get into it is, like I said before, I do not teach spells on my show anymore. I've taught you cute little spells that even kids could do, but my actual spell work is not something that I teach on the show. There are spells on the Lua Nova Patreon, but it's strictly for Patreon members. Okay. But let me see. I think I've gone over everything as far as, you know, how to dispose of it, how to keep it with you if you want, or how to mail it off, or If you want to do it online, you can do it online. I recommend mailing it. Why not? Why not? To me, that's something I actually plan to do. To me, that's the most fun side of things. And when was the last time you mailed off anything? Another option that I think of for you is to send it in Christmas card form or winter card form. I keep saying Christmas because that's what these things are called. But go to the store, look at all the holiday cards that they have. Get one that doesn't say Merry Christmas. You know what I do? Anytime that let's say I like a holiday card and it says something about Christmas, I actually will put a sticker, Hello Kitty sticker, right over that part. Don't care, because unfortunately they don't make cards for witches. So I have to improvise. And maybe at some point witches will make their own cards that will become mass produced. And that would be nice so that people like myself can buy them, because I'm certainly not going to make any. I'm going to be honest with you. But maybe I just gave somebody a business idea. Witches like me will buy it. But there you go, new moons. That concludes sending your letter to Santa. Now I know that seemed the easiest thing ever, but this is about the intention. This is supposed to be fun. And before I wrap up this part of the show and jump into your, why was I gonna say listener letters? We don't do listener letters over here, but we do have Court of the New Moon, which I am going to discuss in a minute. But first, I want to give a shout out to Elise, who is located in New York. And Elise asked me if I could give an update. She is a new listener who has started from season 1. And she asked if I could give an update regarding Carol G and Fade. And since I have an episode on them back in season 1, I believe. And it's back when I used to do the Lua report. And during the Lua report, I would use tarot to kind of give you an idea of the energy that I was picking up around certain celebrities. I never finished the Lua report. It's not something that I do anymore. But because she's a new listener, I did want to mention that and state that I haven't pulled any tarot for any celebrity, but I will based on this. And based on energetically what I'm feeling, I think that Carol G has learned the hard way to be very private about her life. I hope that she doesn't go in the way of allowing Unwell back into her life. But, some people, they gotta learn the hard way. But let's see. I want you all to keep something in mind. When it comes to celebrities, they cannot give me their consent, so I'm very careful about pulling cards regarding their life. I've also been asked about Cardi B. What do you think? What do you think? Cardi B will be just fine. I'll put it that way. I'm just gonna leave it at that because she did not ask me to do this reading. So, as for Carol G, let's see. Oh. Carol G is following her intuition. That's all I'm going to say. She's following her intuition, and nothing's going to get past her. All right? She is, back in the day, back when I did talk about this, there was a tarot reader who is always fear-mongering and was saying all these bad things were going to happen to Carol, and I saw the exact opposite. I was like, no, it's not. I knew she was going to put out another album. And I knew that it would likely be rooted more, kind of, not that she's copying Bad Bunny, but kind of similar in that she wanted to tap more into Latin heritage. Now, the reason why you have not heard me mention her again is how exactly do you have a song called Latina, but there's no Afro-Latinas in your music videos? And how is it that your entire album has strong Afro-Latino influence, yet we have been left out of the conversation, as always? Now, when Bad Bunny was called out on this, he rectified the issue, so I hope that she has as well. But you see, one thing that I don't accept is whitewashing from anybody. And so as a proud Afro-Latina, who both parents are of Latin descent, both, for those of you in the back who don't know that being of Latin descent does not mean that we all look like J-Lo. We don't. Many look like me, and many are much darker. But I need you all to understand something. The second that I see somebody beginning to whitewash themselves, Benito and Caro, then I step back. Now I don't really want to be a part of whatever it is that you are trying to sell. So that is why I have not mentioned her again. and why you will hear me mention Ozuna and Cardi B, etc., because they are Afro-Latinos. So, of course, I have no problem mentioning them on my show. They are not erasing who they are, etc. And to the people who are new to my show who don't seem to understand this very basic concept, but I'm going to go over it because I like to teach. Afro-Latinos are black. The end. African American and black are two different things. Now, you can be African American and black. You can be Afro-Latino and black. In fact, you are. I hate to tell you. Hope I'm not the one that just broke that to you. But you can be black and be from all over the world, because there are black people from all over the world. And many of us have strong African ancestry, something that I'm quite proud of. So, being Afro-Brazilian, Brazil is known for its mixtures, like myself, but I hate that I constantly have to tell people this. The very music, the very food, and the very culture that you likely have been engrossed in when it comes to Latin America originates from Africa. And ancestors like mine who were enslaved. And just because my ancestors were on a different boat does not mean that they are any less black. They are simply black people who speak Brazilian Portuguese. Okay? Just like there are black people in Mexico, black people all over the world. Born there, raised there. Their first language is not English. Okay? My first language is English because I was raised in the United States. My mother was actually an English teacher. She taught children how to speak English, etc. So, there you go. Okay? So, to answer your question, that is why I don't mention Carol on my show. It is no shade to her, and I'm sure she will rectify the issue the same way that Bad Bunny did. Okay? And I wish them nothing but the best, and I hope that they continue to speak up for the Latin community. And there are artists like Raul who always include Afro-Latino influence in their music and in their imagery. And I appreciate him. That is why his Lua report is still up as well. But Ozuna, etc., you know, Mike Towers, who was also Afro-Latino. There you go. But as for Carol and her personal life, one thing about Miss Carol is that her intuition is strong. And I'm going to leave it at that because she didn't ask me to go further into it on this show. But Carol, if you hear this, not only do I need you to have more Afro-Latino influence in your imagery, but I also need you to strongly listen to your intuition, ma'am. Okay? But there you go. That was long. Let's get to your reading. And my apologies again for this mouse that keeps falling asleep. Like, why does it do? I don't know. And yes, it's charged. It's charged, but it does go to sleep when you don't just constantly move it around. And so I have to hit it, and it's near the mic. So I'm going to see what I can do about that. Okay? One sec.
Lua Nova Collective Tarot Reading. By continuing to listen, you consent to having your cards read by Josie the Mustang. All collective readings are intended for a general audience and may or may not resonate with everyone. Visit luanovapodcast.net to book a personal tarot reading with Josie. Lua Nova Leitura Coletiva de Tarot. Ao continuar ouvindo, você consente que suas cartas sejam lidas por Josie the Mustang. Todas as leituras coletivas são destinadas a um público geral e podem ou não ressoar com todos. Visite luanovapodcast.net para agendar uma leitura de tarô pessoal com Josie.
And I know I didn't say so when I was talking about Carol G and I pulled a tarot card. The card that I pulled was the High Priestess. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Okay? Those of you who understand tarot, you understand why I said listen to your intuition after pulling the High Priestess card. Okay? But shout out to all of my listeners who send me the best questions ever. I really enjoyed that. I did. So let me see what your message is this week. One moment. New moons. I'm not going to put you on hold. Shout out to Elise for that question. I'm just tapping into your message for the week. And I'm sorry I sound a little bit off at the moment. It's because I'm getting a lot of messages and sometimes it's overwhelming. If you're in Alabama, I'm hearing that you need to go home. So if you're not at home right now, you need to get home. Spirit, just because this message is standing out to me more than all of the others is, do you mean like their childhood home? No. Just go home. That's all I hear. Okay. Thank you, Spirit. Okay. Thank you, Spirit, for your help with this reading. And I want to say to somebody named, I just heard the name Drew. I have a listener named Drew. I miss you too. Okay. So somebody named Drew, you have a spirit guide that says, I miss you too. Okay. So let's see what your message is this week. Ooh, look at that card. And I knew that this card was going to come out. How did I know? Because I'm a tarot reader. Starting off with the death card. Fun. Let's see. Spirit, why did we get the death card? What are we ending? What's ending? I like seeing this card, especially to start off with. It means that we are leaving things behind. What's ending for us? What's beginning? That's no coincidence. Spirit, this message is for my new moons. Keep that in mind. What is their message? Okay. And Spirit, because I do try to make these shorter, we're going to leave it at 2 cards. If I need more clarity, then I know you'll help me. And thank you again. Aren't you cold? That's what I just heard. They're not talking to me though, I can tell, because it's very warm in here. I heard that. Aren't you cold? I hear a lot of things when I start to do tarot. Sometimes I see things too, but I mainly hear them. Okay, so starting off with the death card. Hold on a second, new moons. Okay, I'm seeing somebody standing, and I've seen you before. You were doing this last time. You're still doing it. You're doing a lot of reflecting. Wintertime is a good time to do that, but during this time of reflection, I hope that you're also finding the time to have fun, because I'm feeling like some of you are being so serious right now. And I understand my delivery can sound serious even when I'm not being that way. So I'm not judging, but I'm judging a little. I'm saying that I want you to let your hair down a little bit. Now this doesn't mean you have to drink, because I feel like when you hear that, some of you think that that's what meaning. You need to stand on tables and, like us millennials would have, and just have a blast. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying that I want you to let your hair down, and that you're very wound up. And as you are going into 2026, I need you to understand something. You don't need to have everything done by January. The real new year is in the spring, not in January, because the earth is still asleep. It's still in hibernation mode. It's still winter in January. And so the reason why as human beings, those of us who are going through the actual winter right now, the reason why it's difficult for us to begin any sort of goals or anything like that, it has a lot to do with the time that the calendar starts, and it being winter in places like the United States. Okay, so it's cold. Or, if you're in Canada, you understand this too. It's cold. So how exactly is it that you're expected to start something new when it's still winter? Now, if it's not winter where you are, then this doesn't apply to you. But I need you to get that. I need you to understand that when January the 1st of 2026 starts, that is just your goal planning time. That's when you're planting the seeds. Spring is when you actually begin. Okay? That is when you hit go. And that is when you feel emboldened to hit go, or to start anything. So it's okay if you don't have everything done by, let's say, by the end of January. Why did my laptop just do that? Spirits, I know you're here. They like to mess with me sometimes when I'm doing readings, but I want you right now to understand that during the holiday season, it's important to have fun, whatever that looks like for you. If fun is you being at home watching holiday movies and just being to yourself. Maybe you have a pet and you're just hanging out with your pet. That is just as much fun as being in a club. And it's just as much fun as traveling, because how we all view what's fun to us is personal. And so I need you to keep that in mind. But as we are in this period of things ending and transforming, that cycle that is ending needs to be done. Completely done. When you close that door on that job, that friendship, etc., let it be that. When you close that door on the version of you that you no longer recognize, because that's just not who you are anymore, because you are beginning to genuinely understand what it means to be your highest self, let it be that. Stop going back and trying to understand, well, why did this friendship end? Or why is it that I don't really relate to the person that I was before I had the spiritual awakening? Because you're not supposed to. You're supposed to leave it where it is. That is what the death card is telling you. The death card is saying, I'm coming in and I'm closing that door, and because you are ready. You are done. So why keep going back to it? Leave it. Okay? And for those who are not familiar with the death card in tarot, this card is also represented by Scorpio. And so because we are ending Scorpio season at the time of this recording, by the time you hear this, I believe we will be going into Sagittarius season. I need you to understand, Scorpio and their transformation energy, it's one that even they oftentimes don't quite grasp until later on in their life. Why is it my life has to transform all the time in such a difficult way? It's not meant to harm you, because the universe doesn't have this energy of wanting to punish you. But we are here to learn. We are here on earth to learn. And so because we are here on earth to learn, those transformations are not always going to be something that is easy. Think about your transition into different parts of school and how sometimes those transitions felt difficult, whether it was leaving kindergarten, or in the US, we leave middle school to go to high school. All of those transitions weren't always necessarily easy, right? But they were necessary. And so let's say when you were in high school, because most of my listeners are adults, did you keep going back to your elementary? Unless, of course, you were picking up, I don't know, a sibling. But did you keep going back? Or did you move on? Even though maybe you missed your third grade teacher. No, you moved on. You moved forward. And so that is the part of your life that you're at right now. You can't keep going back. You can't keep revisiting and, well, I should have said this and I should have done that. Well, what about today? What are we going to be working on today? Because as I end this reading with the Six of Wands, I want you to look at these two cards. I think it's important. That's your homework for this week. To actually physically look at the Death card and the Six of Wands card. What do you notice that's similar about these cards? I'm not going to say it on the show. What do you notice is similar about how these cards look? Because it's no coincidence. And if you look at the Death card, you're going to see the sun in the background. That's no coincidence either. Now, on my show, I don't teach the origins of tarot, but I recommend that you learn the origins of tarot and why these cards are actually all one story and all connected to one. In the Six of Wands, you'll notice that it's actually kind of similar to what the Death card looks like. This seems like two different parts of life though, right? Because they are. The Six of Wands, it's about your progress. It's about not only recognition from others, it's self-validation. It's no longer needing validation from anybody else. It's accepting that I'm so good with where I'm at in my life that I don't need everybody else to clap for me because I'm doing good. Personally, because I hope that this will help somebody if I kind of share something personal with you, I know that Eric always is clapping for me. But do I also know that there are other people who only pretend to? Yes. And so that's why you don't really hear me talk about anybody outside of Eric on my show. Now, my team, they're amazing. But have they been in my life forever? No. They're amazing, and they always are clapping for me, so I'm not in any way saying that they're not clapping for me. What I'm saying is the people who have been in my life for forever. That's what I'm referring to. Outside of the Luanova team, because, again, they're new in my life, and we're clapping for each other. It's really only Eric. clapping. Now, many of you are as well. And here you are, complete strangers. But I'm sure many of you can relate to what I'm referring to, in that it seems like the strangers, or maybe the people who you haven't known as long, are quicker to clap for you and want to see you do well and hype you up, as opposed to the people who knew you all along. This is why that door was starting to close. And now it is completely closed. Because now you're beginning to see things from a different point of view. I need you to let go of the guilt of what that means, of letting those relationships disappear, letting those relationships end, and sometimes that even includes with your family. Because everybody can't go with you. They're not going to go with you, whether it is in 2026 or beyond. They're not coming with you. And I don't even mean in the physical realm, I mean in general. Physically, they'll be fine. But when it comes to spiritually, you have to pull away. You have to understand that the Six of Wands energy is about you and only you. You're at the center of this card. Not because you are now dumping all the people who love you. Absolutely not. Because there are people who are always cheering for you, too. Keep them around. Your own Luanova team. Keep them around. Keep me around. I'm definitely cheering for you. So that is me just saying to all of my clients and listeners, just know I'm always in your corner cheering for you. We may not know each other personally. We may not have known each other for very long, but I'm cheering for you because it is not as easy as it sounds to show up for yourself. It is not as easy as it sounds to continue to manifest in a world that is doing everything that it can, everything you can think of, to force you to engross yourself in negativity. Every time that you turn that nonsense off your TV, or you log out of TikTok the second that it starts to get negative, or you shut down the conversations that put you down or make you feel gross, all of that is progress. And so that progress is Six of Wands energy. It is, yes, you are being celebrated by the people that matter, but you're also learning to celebrate you and to celebrate how far you come. Okay? So that is going to wrap up this week's tarot reading, new moons. And did you hear my phone vibrate? I'm going to check. I'm going to see if we got a message.
Oop, we got a text from Spirit.
And this week's text from Spirit says 1111, communication. Effective communication is the key to strong and loving relationships. The angels remind you to express your feelings openly and honestly. Okay, what we just talked about. That's right. All of those doors aren't closing. Some of those people are coming with you. Your own Luanova team, they are coming with you. And so let's express ourselves with them. Let's be open with them. Let's be honest with them. All right. Putting on the new moons for aligning with the frequency of the Luanova podcast. Make sure that you listen to that little insert that I have that tells you how you can reach me, which is at the Luanova podcast website, luanovapodcast.net. And of course, Court of the New Moon. And I want to talk to you a little bit about Court of the New Moon. Court of the New Moon is the spinoff of the Luanova podcast. It is where listeners like yourself will submit their cases to the Court of the New Moon. I am your judge, and you will be the person who is on trial. Now, I am the only judge. You will not be judged by a jury. What you will be submitting is manifestations and spells that have gone awry, and asking me to sentence you or not. And for instance, one of the cases is somebody who manifested somebody else's girlfriend, okay? And how I would sentence them, etc. The sentences are real, the cases are real and submitted by you, but please keep in mind that it will be for entertainment purposes only. I am not actually a judge. This is all supposed to be fun. It will be about twice a month on Wednesdays. Okay, so that will be starting in season 4. And speaking of season 4 actually begins on the very day that will be the first anniversary of Hoshi passing away. If you're new to my show, Hoshi was my 16-year-old Pomeranian. And for 16 years, I got to be with my furry best friend. He was around every single day. And if you've ever had a pet, then you understand how much of a loss that was for me this year. So that episode will be pre-recorded because that's going to be a difficult day for me. So I already know what it's going to be about, and it's already been pre-planned. I just haven't recorded it yet. But it's going to be a much happier season opener than you would expect. Okay, so don't expect it to be depressing. We are actually going to be embodying Hoshi's energy. More on that another day. Earlier this season, I did ask those of you who had something to celebrate, something that you manifested, that you want all of us to celebrate with you. I asked you to submit that information to me. So I have chosen quite a few of you, and I'm going to have to narrow it down for the purposes of time. And that episode will be airing, I believe it's the second to the last episode for December. Okay. But the episodes that you're going to be hearing going for the rest of December are going to be pre-recorded because I have a lot going on for December as I gear up and get ready for season 4 and the team comes back. We have a lot to plan out, and now we have 2 podcasts to plan. So there you go. There's a lot going on. And in my personal life, there's a lot going on. There's a lot that is happening for us in the best way possible. And I can't wait to tell you more about that, but it even has a little bit to do with Hoshi's influence. So more on that in season 4, but for now, new moons, thank you again, obrigada, for aligning with the frequency of the Lua Nova podcast. Be sure to check out the show notes. That is where you find all of the information that you hear in that little insert that is about to run right after I'm done talking. And I will talk to you next week. Have a safe rest of your week. Hug your loved ones. Tell them that you are grateful for them. Be kind to them. Some of you wonder why you can't manifest, but listen to how you talk to the people that you love, allegedly. Listen to how you talk to the people that allegedly you just could never imagine your life without. Okay? You want to manifest love? You want to manifest abundance, financial abundance? But look at how you treat the abundance you already have. You have an abundance of love. You have an abundance of happiness. It's all around you. Pay attention to what you already have before you try to manifest even more. Okay. And then ask me, well, why is it that it's taking so long for me to manifest? Ask yourself why that would really be. How do you treat your significant other? How do you treat your children if you have them? How do you treat the home that you live in, the car that you drive, the job that you have? How many times have you complained about that job and how you don't want to be there, but yet you want to manifest something bigger? I just want you to ask yourself these questions. And when was the last time you cleaned the top of that fridge? All right, new moons, I'll talk to you next Monday. Ciao. To book a personal tarot reading with me, submit your question for the 6th House Virgo segment, and your question just might be read right here on the show, or read the full disclaimer on spiritual consent and listener responsibility. Visit luanovapodcast.net. To submit a case for Court of the New Moon, go to courtofthenewmoon.com. If you would like to become a Patreon member, download the Patreon app or go to patreon.com/the Lua Nova podcast. Support is also appreciated, so I want to thank you for those of you who always send in donations, and you can do so via Venmo or Cash App. The Venmo username is @LuaNova. The Cash App username is $LuaNova Podcast. Copyright 2025 Lua Nova. All rights reserved.